Hi everyone, it's Sherry again with another video tutorial. Today we're going to be working with selections. Now selections are very easy to use. Today our goal is something very similar to this. Okay, we're going to be taking a page that looks like this and we are going to be using selections to create our collage and have our finished product look like this. Okay, first things first, let's go over our selection tools. First off, by the way, if you guys are going to follow the instructions that are in the lessons below this tutorial, it'll take you about half an hour, but probably no more than that. Selections are very quick, easy, and they're going to be one of your main tools that you're going to be working with when you are designing. Okay, let's start off with looking at our toolbox. Let me minimize this, and let's look at the toolbox real quick. Toolbox, this is what we're going to be dealing with today. The Marquee tool. There is a rectangular marquee tool, the elliptical marquee, single row, and single column marquee. We're also going to be working with our lasso tools, which is the lasso, polygonal lasso, magnetic lasso. These three, they all hide underneath the same piece. Remember, when we see a little piece in the corner of our tool, that means that there's something underneath it and we need to click and hold it down. Or if we're going to go through and cycle through our tools, what we do, hold down our Alt key and click, okay, to cycle through them. Okay, we also have the crop tool that we'll be working with today, and the magic wand along with our move tool. Those are our tools for today. They're pretty easy guys to get along with. So if you want to, remember guys, I've given you both of these files on the beginning of the lesson. Just go ahead and download those to your hard drive. If you're going to save, make sure you save as a different file name as you're working along the way, so that way the originals stay intact and you can come back and review the lesson again if you want to. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing we're going to get started with is our friend, the rectangular marquee. Now the rectangular marquee, with marquee tools, you're going to notice first thing is your cursor, your pointer, becomes a pair of crosshairs. And what we do is we line up those crosshairs, like when we're working with a rectangular marquee, we line up those crosshairs and just click and drag. Okay? And that's real easy to do. We just click and drag and we can go around it. Okay? But sometimes, and we can go select, deselect, and notice what our keyboard shortcut is, Control D, okay, for deselect. What we're going to do is we're going to try to get as close as possible to our edges. If we can't, hold down the space bar to move the selection as you're working with it, okay? And that gives you the ability to be able to match your marquee as closely as possible to the item that you are going to try to outline. Now, when we are on our desktop, now you notice that we are ready to make another marquee with our crosshairs, but when we move inside a selection, it becomes a pointer with the little selection next to it. That just tells us that, hi, we can take and click and drag and move selections around as we work with it. Okay, so that's really groovy and neat about that. Okay, let's go ahead and deselect that because we're not going to be using that. We're not going to be doing anything with that particular selection. We're just practicing making them. Just go over your screen, just click and drag, do the best you can. Now what's also neat about this tool, now notice I can make a marquee. If I click anywhere, it's going to disappear like it was never there. So what we want to do, if we want to make like I'm working with the rectangular marquee tool, and notice it goes to any size and any shape I want it to go. But if I want to make a perfect square, I hold down my shift key. Okay, and my shift key will create a perfect square every time. Okay, doesn't matter which way you go, it's going to make a perfect square. But if we release it, it makes it into a rectangle. Okay, so that's that. All right, first things first, let's go ahead and go under our marquee tools and let's hit the elliptical. Now the elliptical, let's go ahead and zoom in. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to concentrate right here on our little black oval. Now whenever we work with something like this, we're going to go with our elliptical marquee. And what we're going to try to do is now notice if we work with it, it is going to be an ellipse. If we hold down our shift key, it's a perfect circle. Okay, so what we want to do as we are making, we're going to try to cut this out, but notice I'm already off kilter. So hold down the space bar and you're able to move it. Okay, and as you hold as you hold down the space bar, the whole selection is going to move. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to get that centered up as best as possible. Okay, if we don't like how our marquee has turned out, just click somewhere else and try it again. Okay, just keep trying until you get it exactly where you want it to go. Okay, and when you are working with this exercise, don't go for perfection. What you're going to do is just try to work with the tool and just try to get it symmetrical. We have this wonderful little line in the center of it. Okay, we're going to try to get symmetrical to the edges, and when we think we've just about gotten it, what I'm going to do is just pull down just a little bit more, is we're going to release. Okay, and that's going to make our selection. Now what we want to do, let's go ahead and do a Control-0 and fit to screen. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up our move tool. Whenever our move tool, now if we have our move tool just on a regular surface, it has just the pointer with the pair of crosshairs, which means it's going to move. But when we move over a selection that we've created and then we have the move tool, it's going to have a little pair of scissors that go with it. And what that means is it's going to cut it out. So let's go ahead and cut that piece out and we're going to move it. Now, before we deselect or do anything with it, okay, what we're going to do is try to get it centered up as best as possible. Now, you can move things that you have selected by using your arrow keys. Okay, if we tap the arrow key up, tap it down, right, left, it's going to work all still the same. Okay, so let's try to get that centered up as best as we can, and then we're going to deselect it. And now that piece is right on the middle of our journal. Now let's go ahead and go over to the globe. Okay, and let's go ahead and zoom in on the globe. Just work with those selections. There we go. Okay, this time around though, we're going to come back with our ellipse tool. And let's go back and look at our end thing so we can see where we're going. Okay, we're going to try to place those globes right up there. Okay, what we're going to do this time though is we are going to come over here with our ellipse tool and we're going to try to find the center of this globe. And we have our the little pieces that hold the globe in place, and then we have our equator. So we're going to know that our center of our globe is right about there. What you're going to do is you hold down your Alt key and then you're going to click and drag. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull that out from the center. But we don't have a perfect circle, and we notice that our globe really is pretty close to a perfect circle. What we can do is hold down the Shift key as we're holding down the Alt key, and that is going to give us a nice pretty circle. But you know what? You don't have to be exact, so if you want to, just make sure you're holding down that Alt key to get it to pull out from the center, because if we don't, if we let it go, it's just going to go wherever it is that it thinks it should go instead of the center. Okay, and if we want to, we can of course pull this by holding down the space bar and moving it just a little bit to make sure we get all the pieces in. Okay, and that looks pretty good right there. I'm very pleased with that, so I'm going to release and then release my Alt key. Now let's go ahead and fit everything back to the screen. Control-0 or was it edit? No. View. I'm sorry. View, fit on screen. Okay. What you're going to do is come over here, and then of course we've got our scissors again. We're going to click and drag. We're going to start right up here. Okay. But what we're going to do is go Image, Adjustments, and then to Invert. Whoa, that's pretty cool, huh? So we've gotten that one, I think, right approximately where we want to get it. Oops. We've gotten it where we want it to go. Okay, now notice what happened. Now, before I inverted it, I could move it to my heart's content. But the minute you change it by going Image, Adjustments, Invert, it's going to stick right where it is, okay? And so what we're going to do now is we're going to copy it by holding down the Alt key, and then we're going to click and drag, okay? So now we've got another globe, which is very nice. But you know what? On our picture, we'll notice at the end point, it's graduating up in size. So let's go ahead. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to, and notice it still floats around. We haven't done anything to it yet. And let's go and let's just do a comparison. Let's see where we're going to go. Okay, now what we're going to do with this now is we're going to do a Control T or Edit Transform, okay, or Free Transform, which is Control T. Hold down your Shift key to constrain proportions, and what you're going to do is you're going to pull it and make it just 1.5 times larger than the one that's next to it. So we're going to go probably about 125%. No, you know, let's go to 135 or 140. Okay, we can do that by either, you know what, that's still too big. So we'll, you know, and you have to eyeball it. You have to know where you want to go. Okay, so we've made it a little bit bigger, which ended up being 130%. So we can come up here to our boxes and we can tell it I want it to be 130 times larger, 130% larger. And then there we go. And then we just hit enter. And we've got our another globe. Now let's go ahead and make another one. And what we're going to do, hold down the Alt key, and then we're going to pull it again, okay, to make another one. And this time we're going to transform it again and make it even a little bit bigger. This time I'm going to tell it to go to 155%. Oops. Okay, well maybe not that big, maybe 150. Let's go 150, which is still a little big. But you know what? It's one of those things, you know, we know what we want it to look like. You know, it knows what we want it to look like. But, you know, it's just moving it around and making it so, there you go. It's pretty close, you know. And everything depends on your artistic nature and how you feel everything has symmetry and balance. Okay, so we've taken it and we've done a selection coming from the center of an object. Then we went and we changed how we view it. We made it into a photo negative by going to Image Adjustments Invert. Then we duplicated it by holding down the Alt key. Okay, pretty simple, pretty easy. We're doing pretty good. Now let's work with the magic wand for a minute. Okay, now let's go with a tolerance of 70. Okay, what tolerance means is that the magic wand is going to pick up on shades that are X number lighter and X number darker than the point that you select. Okay, that's what tolerance means. So if you had 32, it'd be 32 lighter and 32 shades darker from your original color. In this case, we've gone with 70, which means it's going to pick up on 70 shades lighter and 70 shades darker from the color that we pick. So as we zoom in, let's go ahead and zoom in on our number 5 for a little bit, because he's our next participant in this wonderful experiment. Okay, we're going to take our magic wand. We're going to click on it. Now notice we've got a lot of marching ants there because it hasn't gotten the whole thing. So what we do, hold down the Shift key, and then you notice our magic wand got a little plus key next to a little plus sign next to it. We're going to click on the areas that it didn't pick up before, and we've selected the whole thing. Okay, let's go back, fit it on screen. Okay, now again we're going to come over here, cut it out, and move it right over here. Now, do we have it just about right compared to our image? Yeah, that's pretty good. You know, we can move it out a little bit more if we want. You know, we can move it up, down, we can put it wherever we want. So there you go. That's one more piece of our little puzzle. Okay, and when you're done, just deselect it and it'll stay there. Now, next up is going to be our pen. Now, the pen is going to be done with a combination of the lasso tools. Now the lassos are a lot of fun. They're a little cavalier guy, but they're a lot of fun to work with. Just as long as we can see the entire pen inside of our window, that's the most important thing. Okay, first off, we're going to start with the lasso tool. And with our mouse, we're going to click and we're going to drag. And we're going to hold down our mouse key as we go around the end of the pen. Okay? Now, by holding down the Alt key, we're going to release, and it's going to become the Polygonal Lasso. We pull, and okay, with this one, it's really a lot of fun, because what's going to happen is that with the Polygonal Lasso, it makes straight lines. It makes things in polygons. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all the hard edges and we're going to do them with the Polygonal Lasso. Okay. And as we come around, what we're going to do is that we are going to go back because we've got a curved edge here on the nib. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold it down, release, and it's going to become the regular Freeform Lasso again. Okay, and as we come around here, we're going to do the best that we can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect. Okay, hold down the mouse button, hold down the Alt, press the Alt key, release with the mouse button. It changes back to the Polygonal Lasso. And we keep heading around. Okay. And this is how you work with two tools simultaneously to create the end result. And as we get toward the end, oops, I have one I didn't like. Hit your backspace key. That's going to take out the last anchor point that you gave it. Okay? And as we come toward the end, hold down the mouse button, press and hold, release the Alt key, and what we're going to do is we're going to come up to the end of our lasso. Okay? And there we go. Now I goofed a little bit, so I'm going to come in here with my come on now. Hello. There we go. Alright, I'm going to come in with my little friend here. Actually, let's go with the lasso tool. I'm going to come back with the polygonal, and I'm going to hold down my shift key to add pieces to it. What I'm going to do is I kind of goofed it up, so I'm going to come back through and I'm just going to circle around the little piece that I missed. Okay, so now we've worked with two tools simultaneously. Pretty easy, huh? It's really simple. You just have to remember when you work with the lassos, when you're changing lassos, when you're working with the Freeform Lasso, with just the regular lasso tool, click and hold as you're drawing. When you're getting ready to switch tools, press down your Alt key, then release your mouse button, and then that'll switch over the tool for you. Okay, so now let's go ahead. And in the lesson it says get it to a jaunty position. Okay, jaunty is not my word. I don't use the word jaunty. That is so totally the book. But anyway, let's go ahead and move our pen into our jaunty position by coming up here, and then we're going to hit the transform again, just like we did earlier, and we're going to hit Control T, and then look at what happened with my arrows. Okay, look what happened with my cursor. It's become these two double-headed, it's become a double-headed arrow. Okay, now what it's going to do, we're going to take it and we're just going to turn it. Okay, that means that we're able to turn our object. Now let's look at our final result real quick. Okay, that's pretty decent. Pretty decent. Okay, we'll just move it over a little bit to the side. Okay, let's hit Control 0 and see how it looks. Hey, that's not bad. Okay, if we want to, we can always adjust it. Everything is always adjustable. Okay, then when we're done, hit Enter, and that's going to give our pen that angle. If we want to move it around, hit your arrow keys. Okay, then when we're ready to place our pen, deselect. Okay, we're almost done. We only have the lock and the flower left. So let's go ahead and do the lock. This time we're going to do the lock with what is called the Magnetic Lasso. Now Magnetic Lasso is different from his kinfolk up there in the Lasso Brigade. The Lasso tool it's just click and drag, and then you make whatever shape you want. With the polygonal, then you give it an anchor point, and then you just click, you drag and click. You're not actually holding down your mouse button as you're dragging. You just go and you hit various points, and it selects the whole thing. Okay, but with the magnetic lasso, he's got some talent. I have to say, he's got some talent. What's going on here is that the magnetic lasso is really smart. He's actually going to form fit himself to your selection. Now, occasionally you have to tell him, hey, you need to make an anchor point, and you do that by clicking. Okay? But as you go through, it's going to take the contrast in your image, and it's actually going to work with it, and it's going to say, hey, I see that there's a difference between light and dark here, and I'm going to make sure to outline that. So as it goes around, you notice it just lays like a piece of tensile wire. It lays down points as it needs it. You just pull it around, okay? Sometimes you need to make a corner, and then you just click and make your other corner. And as you go around, sometimes you might feel the need to make a few extra points, but if you just trust in this guy, he usually does pretty good. Not one of my favorite tools in the arsenal, but it has its place. Every tool has its place and time. Oops, hello. Now look what I did. I pulled way out on accident. What am I going to do? Hit my backspace key. And the backspace key takes me to the last anchor point set. Okay, and you can go back as many anchor points as you'd like. If you don't like 10 of them, you can take them all out just by hitting your backspace key again and again and again. Okay, then come down. And as we come around, it's going to lay those points for us. But we have to stay really close to those edges that have such the high contrast areas, because that's what tells it to lay down the anchor points. Okay, almost done, almost done, almost done. There we go. And as we come to the top, I want to make sure to get that little corner in there. And as we come to the top, you notice we have our little circle next to our tool. That means the selection is complete. Go ahead and click. And we have a selection that's all done. Let's go ahead, go back to our big image. Let's go ahead. And of course, we have our move tool. When we do things with the move tool, we just click and drag and move it to where we want to go. When we get it there, we can either adjust it using our mouse. As you can see, it will move for us because it is the move tool. Or we can click it up and we can move it up and down with our arrow keys. So I think I've gotten it really where I like it. Okay, we're going to deselect, and now it's set. Last one. See, this lesson's actually pretty quick. Last one. What we're going to do, rectangular marquee, go around the flower. But we're going to cut out the flower by holding down our control key. Okay, coming with our magic wand, hit our control key, and then we're going to, oops, not the control key, I'm sorry. We're going to hit the alt key, and we're going to click. But, oh, look what happened. Look at what happened. Now, this is a lesson to watch your tolerance. I wasn't paying attention. And look what happened. My tolerance was set at 70, and it picked up all of these light colored petals that are around the water lily. Oops, I goofed. Got to deselect and try again. This time, moving the tolerance to 32. Okay, let's go ahead and take our marquee. Let's click and drag on a nice little box and make sure we've got plenty of room around the sides of the flower so that way it knows what it's doing. Okay, come back here to the magic wand. What you're going to do, hold down the Alt key, and you're going to click. And look at that. It cut out the flower perfectly for us. Now let's move it into place right where we want it and deselect. Not bad. I think we did pretty good. I think we did fairly well today. Okay, now, there's a problem with our stuff here. Well, I'm not crazy about this. There's all kinds of foo and rah-rah going on around the outside because look at all the pieces that we had cut out. Okay, we don't need that around there. So let's grab our crop tool. Take our crop tool, click and drag, just a regular marquee. Just make sure it's nice and pretty. Now, sometimes we'll even get pieces in like that. Okay, and I'll teach you how to get those out of there. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll come up from the corner and we'll go about yay. Okay, and we'll hit enter. Now, oh, interesting thing about this. Okay, let's go back with the crop tool. I just went in my history panel and went back one stage in the history. Okay, I've come out a little bit far. There we go. And I've got a little bit of stuff. Now, I'm sorry, I keep meaning to show you one thing with the crop tool. Crop tool. When you do it, sometimes there are things that you'll want to adjust for. Just click and drag the handles at the corners. Okay? Just click and drag. And that's gotten us a nice little square shape. But notice we still have a little bit of yuck in there. Let's go ahead and hit enter. Let's crop our image, make that nice and tight. But we still have that stuff in the corner. I don't like that being there. I don't think if you made a collage, you'd want to see it there either, would you? Well, what we can do, we have a couple of options that we can do with this. First things first is we can take a selection, okay? And with our foreground and background colors at the default, okay, which means black is the foreground, white is the background, what we can do is just hit delete. And it clears it out. Kind of neat, huh? Now, we also have another way of doing this, which is we can have our little marquee here. And we can come back with our brush tool and select white as our foreground color, come up here into our brushes and pick a nice big old brush. And we can come through here and we can actually go ahead and paint, okay? And as we rub our mouse over it, then it disappears because we painted over it. But I'm going to show you something. Okay? What we can do, what happens, and I'm going to use black as an example because I want you to be able to see this. When you have a selection on one of your images, the only thing that is going to get touched, look at this, I'm doing wide, broad, sweeping strokes with a black brush over this, but look, only inside the selection is getting colored in. Okay? So when we do this, when we come back with white, if we have all this yucky stuff here, we don't have to worry about swinging wide with our brush and hitting all the other elements that are in our image. No, it just goes right here into the corner where our selection is, okay? That's the neat thing about selections. They are very useful for painting as well. Okay, that's it. The collage is done and you're finished. So good luck. Lots of instructions below. Remember, the PDF icon is in the top right-hand corner of the lesson, so that way you can print out the PDF of instructions to have on your desktop. Have a good one, and see you soon. Bye.